All right, everyone, jumping into the week 2 slate here for college football. But first, just a quick recap from the bet of the day from yesterday. Pretty good. The hitting fantasy score props continue to roll. Now, I did have a Flex Friday slip out there right now. As I'm recording this, we'll still see if that one's going to hit. The WNBA ones are cutting it close. We'll see. And there's a college football prop that may or may not hit, but for a normal day, taking out the Flex Friday part of it, bet of the day, the hitting fantasy score props, the ones that we continue to go back to because they continue to hit that hit. So hopefully you guys were able to take advantage of that. Let's go ahead and get into the college football slate. All right, so jumping into it now, we are breaking down the college football slate. I am going to go through and just kind of look at the props that we have available. We are gaining seemingly a little bit more than what we had on the previous slate, at least when I record the video, which is good. Hopefully we can find some pretty good edges there. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the OddsJam Sportsbook view here to see if there's any games that we should specifically be targeting, either for overs or unders. Obviously, if a game is going to be a higher scoring game, we want to be chasing more of the overs. And then, unless the line's a little bit aggressive, the line's really going to dictate that as well. But if a game is going to be lower scoring, and probably looking at some of the unders. There's some correlation there. And what I mean by that specifically is probably looking at a lot of the fantasy score props. To me, that's where we are getting the biggest edge. I showed you guys that at the start of this video with the hitting fantasy score props for MLB. That's true for NFL. That's going to be true for college football. That's going to be true for NBA as well. Maybe not the clip that the MLB ones have been hitting, but still, that's the biggest edge that we see. So looking at this right now, guys, we see a couple of games here, Nebraska versus Colorado. That's going to be a very popular game. That's going to be a game in which we are going to get a lot of volume on there from DraftKings, or people betting a lot of volume on DraftKings, FanDuel, PrizePicks, Underdog, and whatnot. 2.5, Colorado's favored by. I believe Nebraska actually opened as the favorite, and then the public came in and really hammered that home. But that is probably going to be a game that we want to be attacking in some capacity. Let's see, Youngstown State. Yeah, probably not looking at that. Ohio State favored by 41, but that's a 56.5 over and under. Vanderbilt versus Wake Forest. Only 9.5. I guess that's the best odds. 10-point favorites there for Wake Forest. Let's see. Let's continue to go down this list. 59, Eastern Kentucky. That's a blowout, though. I don't really like to target blowout guys, just as an FY, because sure, you can say that the game's going to be a blowout and that there's obviously going to be players that make it a blowout in terms of players that you want to be on. But a lot of the times, we want to look at closer games just because then we can predict playing time a little bit more. Now, here's a very fun one here. All right, Texas State UTSA. Now, I don't know if we're going to get any props for that, but if we do, that's probably something we want to be attacking. Not too crazy of a spread. Another one, Ole Miss versus Tulane. Very high scoring game there. Tulsa versus Washington, but that's going to be a blowout. SMU versus Oklahoma. We should be getting some for that one right here. 68 for an over and under. That is huge. UAB, Georgia Southern, so maybe not anything too crazy there. Let's continue on. Here's a decent one. Oregon versus Texas Tech, guys. All right, 68.5, and we'd look at the point difference, 6 points. So, going to be a high scoring game, most likely for both teams. Arizona, Mississippi State, 68. Okay, so we get a pretty good idea of maybe which games we should maybe favoring a little bit more for some overs that we want to be on. And so just looking at it, we do see one with that Oregon game, and we see the over that we want to be on. Now, for me, I look at this, see Bucky Irving, and I see, all right, maybe that's going to be one of the options we can go with for the fantasy score. Let's see if we have a prop available for him. And that's funny. I just figured it'd already be out yet. All right. Oh, they are. All right. Fantasy score. Here we go. And we are. Okay. So we're getting a fantasy score prop for him. I like that. So let's just say he does get 98 receiving yards, right? We saw that as a pretty good bet we could be on. Then we could also say, all right, if he's getting that's about 9 points. It's tough to imagine him not getting those receptions as well, 7 or so, maybe a touchdown mixed in there as well. So that's going to be one of the better, probably, fantasy score props you can be on. And sorry, that receiving and rushes, okay? And then kind of sticking with that game, the next best one that we're going to have is probably going to be Texas Tech for passing and rushing yards here at 304.5 yards, betting the over there as well. And so we can see last week he was able to kind of really dominate in terms of passing yards. Rush yards had a really good game as well, consistently getting over that one. So once again, like fantasy score wise, we could easily bet the over there as well. But we are going to see that this prop makes sense for the over 304 rush plus pass yards. We just saw probably a good bet for either one of those. So it makes sense why when you combine them, that's going to be a good prop. And guys, that's kind of the consistent thing that we are seeing here, right? is that the props that we basically want to be going in on are literally all these combination props. And that's the biggest reason why I'm using the Odds Jam optimizer right now for this. And then we also see another one here, Jeff Sims for over passing and rushing yards as well. So a few of the good games that we want to be on, we are getting that magic 54 number. We could be using those ones. So we can see this is not exactly going to be the best like EV bet you could potentially put out there, but not terrible as well. Like I like the fact that we are targeting those games that are going to be high score. And then guys, just looking at real quickly some of the discrepancies that we are getting as well. Like the lines are pretty consistent across the board. Even when we sort by like the yardage difference, we're not getting that huge of an edge really at all. And like percentage wise, very much pretty good. And this is a little bit different than what we saw last week. So that's probably a good thing for Underdog and PrizePicks, that we're seeing a more consistent message between both of them for their line. Now, just real quickly, just take a peek at some of those other games. You know, we did see that Colorado-Nebraska game is going to be a higher scoring game. And I could argue that this line that we're going to get for Sanders, he really just lit up in that first game against TCU, which was supposed to be a good defense. This number could be too low for him there as well, okay? Nebraska, I guess, played a good game. I don't think Minnesota was all too good. I think PJ Fleck's pretty overrated as well. I am very interested about Travis Hunter, who did get targeted heavily. His fantasy score is seemingly kind of, I don't know, it's just an interesting fantasy score, honestly. I feel like a lot of people are going to go in on that when maybe the better option would be Xavier Weaver. I would say, honestly, if you're stacking, or not a terrible stacking opportunity, Sanders and Weaver, potentially there. Now, that being said, like he did only have, 6 receptions in that game. They spread out the wealth, okay? Just want to point out this as well. This is something we do see with PrizePicks occasionally. The fantasy score prop for Travis Hunter is set at 14.5. We can see the game log is wrong here. I don't know if they're pulling in maybe a defensive fantasy score or something. I don't really know what's going on there. We look at the game log, we can see 11 catches and 120 almost receiving yards. So that's just kind of where we need to be careful sometimes. But I do really like the idea of maybe stacking that game, and maybe a lot of the Colorado players, like we just saw, like Sanders, and pairing him up with, heck, maybe all 4 of the pass catchers, and just hoping to get lucky. If it's a flex bet, maybe you double up instead of hitting all of them. I don't mind that. You're just betting on the game over and under being as high scoring as it is projected to be. And then who else can we run out there? It's tough. Like Sims is expected to rush the football a decent amount. It's going to be a high scoring game. Maybe just run it back with him. Obviously, we would want to maybe do another pass catcher, but guys, the production really wasn't there. Once again, it's always tough to say with Big Ten football, obviously known for being pretty good at defense and just time and possession games and whatnot. Maybe the offense will be good against Colorado, who was pretty terrible, but also was that just TCU's offense being pretty good? It's tough to say. It's 1 week, right? And we did see with Sims, one of the better bets is going to be him for over 243.5 passing and rushing yards. So maybe that's just the way that you go. So like a simple slip that you could run out there for that game specifically. Once again, Jeff Sims, you don't know how he's going to get there. It could be rushing, it could be passing, and then just really stacking up Sanders with his pass catchers. Now, we're really just betting on Vegas being correct about this game, it being high scoring, and probably Colorado winning. And the way that they do that is by passing the ball a lot. Hopefully we're correct there. Now, that Wake Forest game wasn't terrible, so if you're looking for like some over fantasy score props there, you could, potentially quarterback and receivers here. They're expected to score a lot there. Once again, I don't mind the idea of maybe just stacking up a bunch of them together and just hoping that quarterback throws for 3 touchdowns, and the over and under that we're getting here of 57 turns out to be correct. I'm actually curious, how many of you guys are actually going to go back to the well with Sam Hartman, who has been able to get his over fantasy score prop twice now? He is going to draw a slightly more difficult matchup in terms of how high scoring the game is, 49.6, kind of low for a college football game. So not exactly something you want to be targeting too much. So I'm just going to continue on. A lot of people are going to see this, though, the last 5 all green, and just go in on him. So just be careful of that. All right, so now just looking at that real quick game, that Tulane versus Ole Miss game, because once again, we did see this is going to be a very high scoring game, and it's a closer scoring game as well. 66 and +7, so not terrible there for Tulane. They should be able to keep in the game a decent amount. So if we look at the game log for Mississippi in their last game, this number seems to be too low. I mean, if they're going to score 66, if the game over is going to be 66, it's going to be tough to imagine their quarterback not being a big factor in that. And also we got Tulane here for a number that seems to be pretty low. The only issue that I have with Tulane is somewhat of a disappointment, I guess you could say, against South Alabama, 17-37. But the lack of receptions is kind of my biggest worry. But you could probably trust their quarterback. Didn't really have to do much. That's the biggest thing. And the thing with Ole Miss is that we probably just didn't learn that much from them, because they absolutely just blew out Mercer. Like, don't really learn much from that, right? But we are seeing a popular game, and a game that should be fun to stack. And just for what it's worth as well, like, a lot of people might be looking at the last 5 games. This is where it could be kind of trap thoughty here. This is a very high number, don't get me wrong, 21.5 for a running back, especially when I just said, you probably want to be targeting the quarterback. The game was a blowout, guys, and he was able to get to 21.1, right? So if it stays a little bit closer, tough to imagine him not being able to get the over there as well. This is just kind of one of those situations where I'm just going to tell you, literally, if we're trying to game stack this game, I feel pretty comfortable really just loading up on a lot of the over. So another kind of fun, simple, easy bet you could do, and this is going to be for the afternoon slate, obviously, trying to give you guys a morning, afternoon, and evening one. I don't mind just going game stack. We are betting on that game being high scoring. Thus, we're going to bet a lot of the overs here, hoping that it stays true. The one that I worry about is here, the running back. You could potentially just toss in a receiver with him instead. We already saw some that we could roll out there for Oregon versus Texas Tech. I don't feel like I need to jump on that again. And what kind of sucks is we're not getting any of those UCLA props out just yet. And that's kind of it for me, guys, right now. Just, it feels like I'd probably be forcing in a little bit of those evening games. Right now, we're not getting that many good EV bets. I don't really see a way in which we could really be targeting one of those late night games in a good, logical way. Like Auburn, California, maybe. We're not getting any on Arizona, Mississippi State just yet. That's probably going to be the one that we really want to go on, especially if we're doing fantasy score props. So you guys already saw the bet of the day at the start of the video. Just a reminder, use the promo code here if you guys want to get access to that odds jam stuff. You can also join 9 to 5 to get access to the college football cheat sheet, as well as the discrepancy report as well. A lot of other sports included there as well. Links to both of those are in the description below. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.